There is too much attachment to this overcomplicated way of going through life, that it's become a badge of honor, that if things aren't super hard, if we are not constantly struggling, then we're either not worthy, we're not good enough, our wins don't count as much. It's like the struggle gets us the recognition and the validation that we're seeking. And we need to let go of that attachment to that overwhelm, thinking that that makes us who we are or gives us our identity. We have this attachment to who this struggle has made us. We have overly identified ourselves with the overwhelm. Welcome to the Fire Within podcast, helping you to remember and embrace who you really are and turn the spark within you into a full burning soul-led fire. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master teacher, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is episode 222. Angel number time. Before I jump in, I want to remind you of just a couple events that are coming up. First is on Sunday, March 24th from 12 to 4 at Stone and Sage in New Berlin. So if you are local to me, you know where that is. That is another one of our readings events. It's kind of focused on the spring equinox, the official start of the new year. And I'm actually doing mini Akashic Records readings. So the library of your soul, we can go anywhere in time in your soul's journey and just see what messages are waiting for you to hear. Or maybe things that need to be healed. Who knows? And then I have to look at the date. I wish I had the date in front of me. I apologize, but it's sometime in April is the Authentically You Awakening Summit 2024. It is me and 9 other amazing coaches, speakers, these 9 women coming together, 10 women, counting me, hi, I have to include myself, to help you awaken to your authentic self. And personally, I'm going to be talking about balancing mental toughness, physical health, and your spiritual growth to help you fully embrace who you are meant to be. So the link for both of those are in the show notes. So you can go right ahead and buy your ticket for the in-person event in March. And you can read up on and also purchase your ticket for the summit that's coming in April. And if you have any questions on either of those, please reach out and let me know. Also, if you have not yet left a review for the podcast, that helps out in the podcast algorithms greatly if you do. So if you feel so called, please go ahead and make sure to leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. And also, as always, share the show to help it reach more people. So go ahead and share it to your social media. If you share it to Instagram, please tag me at I am Carrie Jokala and let me know if there's more topics you want to hear about. I am starting to get back into some more interviews soon. In fact, I have one. We just did a pre-interview and we're going to line up the actual interview coming up. I have a couple people in mind that I want to look into bringing back and then start seeking out some new people. So looking forward to those, having some fresh conversations, fresh perspectives here on the podcast. And yeah, let's get into today's topic. So we are going back to the basics. We have, as a collective, completely overcomplicated literally everything about life. You can look into any topic, any industry, any thought process, any belief system, literally anything that you can think of. And I'm sure we could find a way to agree that there is some overcomplication, that something is way more difficult than it needs to be. And I struggle to say that in the sense that I don't want it to imply that I think that everything in life is supposed to be easy, because it's not. We are here on a journey for growth, to evolve, and we cannot do that without going through some hard stuff. We, in fact, it is my belief that we have soul contracts and we plan some of this hard stuff for ourselves to go through. And then others might be unexpected, but we still have to go through it. And ideally, we're going to come out a better person, a more evolved soul on the other side of it. But we need those hard things. The issue is making things even harder than they actually need to be. Like work smarter, not harder, that kind of thing. And the message that has come up for me starting this weekend is to go back to the basics. And here's a little thread right here for you about how mental toughness, physical health, and spiritual growth all tie into one another. This first came through a fitness instructor feedback training that I did on Saturday. So at the gym I work at, they hosted a couple Les Mills master classes, which were super fun. And then right after that, anybody could join that. So there were a bunch of us instructors there, and then as many other gym members as we could fit in the room. And then after that, so it was 2 workouts in a row. It wasn't terrible because one was more yoga, tai chi. So it was kind of a nice stretch to have afterwards. It was slower. It was good. But then there was a few hours worth of instructor feedback training. So basically we each got up, taught, we call it a track, because in Les Mills there's specific tracks that have specific focuses. So you get up and you teach your track. And then the master trainer would give us feedback on whatever we wanted feedback on, just as a way to help us grow. And they have, I guess you would say, a structured format for guiding you on how to cue your classes. So stay with me. This is going to be relevant to you, even if you are not an instructor, I promise. They have layered coaching. That's what I should say, not structured coaching, but same thing, I guess. Layered coaching. So there's layer 1 cues, layer 2 cues, and layer 3 cues. Layer 1 cues are the basics. You teach the basics. When you're going into a squat, push your hips back. Brace your abs. Keep your knees behind your toes. Push your knees away from each other. Did I say keep your chest up? Keep your chest up. Good posture in the upper body. Like all the basics. Where to put your feet. Where to press. What part of your leg are we focusing on? Are we in a mid stance? Are we in a wide stance? Are we doing the front of the quad? Are we doing the inner thigh? Like where are we focused? Layer 2, you add on to that, possibly adding in some education about why this particular move is beneficial. And then layer 3 is getting into the motivational, you can do it, we're going to make it kind of cues. And I personally, having come from teaching things like turbo kick and hip hop hustle in my early days, where we were taught how to cue, when to cue, but it wasn't quite so structured and focused. So we're calling out, I got into it learning how to call out the names of the next moves. When is the best time to say that so that everyone can come with you at the right time? Because this is all choreographed to the beat. You got to be on time. And there's not a lot of time in between in that choreography to talk about anything other than what the name of the move is, essentially. So if there's anything complicated, you got to do that before class and preview it for everybody. And then once you get into class, we're just saying essentially what the name of the move is that's coming next. And then in between, you have time to shout out the motivational cues. So I tend to lean a little more than I probably should, in Les Mills' views, toward the motivational cues. Not that I don't do the layer 1 and layer 2 cues. I do them. But that was one thing I had to learn in my initial training. And I just wanted some feedback on that to make sure that, I was still nailing the layer 1 and layer 2 cues. And we talked as a group about really focusing on the layer 1. Coach the basics. Go back to the basics. And then over the weekend, I started thinking about how that just makes sense across the board for me. And I think it makes sense for the collective across the board as well right now, that we have so overcomplicated things. I mean, I simply, first of all, think about how quickly and easily people can get offended or angry or take something and twist it around. Like you can scroll Instagram and come to a reel that is hilarious. Maybe let's say it's something that's parenting focused, and it's hit or miss. That reel either finds the right people who get it and think it's hilarious, or it finds all of the people who want to critique that person's entire parenting based off of one moment in a video, or take one thing that this person said, and because they didn't say this other thing, now they're mad because it means they left out this whole thing and they're misleading people and blah, 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 blah. And it's like we're looking for things to be complicated. So complicated that everybody has to completely 100% explain every last single detail in order to not offend, in order for someone else to say that they understand it. And in my perspective, that is overcomplicating things. We're also overcomplicating what is our purpose? What am I here to do? Go back to the last episode for that. I did a whole conversation on that and transcending the ego and moving past all of that to find out what your real purpose is and how that discovery and acceptance of that takes the pressure off finding the external purpose. We have to go back to the basics. Another thing that had popped into my head is like, how many times do we say things like, I need to get my shit together. I don't have all my ducks in a row. They're in the same pond, but they're just not in a row. It's because we've gotten so overwhelmed and overcomplicated everything that we can't even get the basics together. But without getting super cliche, what does everything need? A solid foundation. We have to master the basics of whatever it is you're thinking about in your life right now that you feel overwhelmed in. We have to master the basics first. And this is just as much a message for me as it hopefully is for you. I did pull some cards that I wanted to tell you about. I pulled them ahead of time, and something interesting, as always, happened. So I have 3 different decks that I felt drawn to. So I was going to pull one card from each, but of course that didn't happen. I got one card from the Energy Oracle, but technically there's 2, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I got 3 because these cards all literally jumped out. So these ones I didn't even stop and wait to hear if it was a yes or no or to tune into that energy. They literally jumped out. So I got 3 cards from the Work Your Light deck and then 2 cards from the Quantum Oracle. The Quantum Oracle, I took a look at my deck because this one and the Energy deck both have upright and reversed meanings for the cards. And the Quantum Oracle, I've had it for a long time now, but I haven't used it nearly as often as my other decks. So I'm not super, I don't want to say connected, but I'm just not super used to this deck yet. And, I kind of had everything upright for a long time before I felt like I was ready to get some of the reversals in there, and kind of did my best to be guided as to how to get the cards to reverse in the deck without purposely doing any of them, of course. And I took a look at my deck and just kind of looked to see how many were reversed. And because I was doing some card pulls a week or so ago, and I felt like I was getting all these reversed cards that didn't feel like they should have been reversed. And I'm like, maybe I got to flip this around. So I flipped the deck around and immediately got you put that back the way it was. So I had to put it back the way it was. Put that thing back where it came from, or she'll help me. And I got 2 reverse cards. But what's interesting about them is how they tie back to the other cards. So all of that aside, The first card that I got from the energy deck is attachment. So what that says to me is that there is too much attachment to this overcomplicated way of going through life. That it's become a badge of honor, that if things aren't super hard, if we are not constantly struggling, then we're either not worthy, we're not good enough, our wins don't count as much. It's like the struggle gets us the recognition and the validation that we're seeking. And we need to let go of that attachment to that overwhelm, thinking that that makes us who we are or gives us our identity, just like I was talking about in the last episode. Very relevant. Well, there was another card that was underneath it, and I looked at it, and I was like, feeling that it probably was relevant, but I'm like, I don't know. So I put it back. We'll get to that in a second. Then, from the Work Your Light deck, I got Priestess. How are you being called to step up and lead? Well, first of all, you can't lead. You can't be a master until you master the basics. So if you're feeling called to be a leader, this is your call to master the basics of whatever it is you're feeling called to. And it could simply just even be mastering the basics of your own life, getting your personal foundation in line. Boundaries. Where do you need to establish better boundaries is what it says on the card. But what I got is maybe you need to actually open up your boundaries a little bit. We're closed off. We have this attachment to who this struggle has made us. We have overly identified ourselves with the overwhelm. And maybe we've put up too many boundaries, too many walls. We need to have some boundaries. And maybe in some cases we need to put up a shield rather than build a wall. And there's a very old episode from back when this was Rockstar Confidence. I don't remember which number, but literally if you scroll all the way back, you'll find it. But maybe we have too many boundaries. And maybe that's why there's so much offense being taken by many of us in many situations. Because, okay, the other reason why you maybe need to open up your boundaries is that we got the card Soul Family. Call in your tribe. You don't have to do it alone. This spiritual growth journey can feel very lonely, especially since even within that journey, when we find people who are on that journey, we don't still always have the same experience, the same beliefs, the same perspectives. It's still all very different. And it can be hard to find those who are closer to the same path that you feel that you're on. So it can feel very lonely. But this is your reminder that your tribe, your family exists. They're out there. And you're all looking for each other. And if you open up your boundaries and you let go of this overwhelm, you can find them. Then, from the Quantum Oracle, we got 2 reversed cards. And the first one that's reversed is Great Gratitude. And the card that I put away from the Energy Oracle was the Envy card. Mainly because I let my ego get in the way. And I'm like, I don't know how to make sense of that. I don't think that's we're going to put that away. Well, here it makes sense. Up against the Great Gratitude card reversed. So listen to this. When this card is reversed in your spread, it indicates a deep dissatisfaction taking place. You may have had a recent loss, or you may be immersed in something very frustrating. Perhaps you never even learned how to be happy. Whatever the cause of your dissatisfaction, you absolutely must make the mental shift to focused appreciation. Choose to notice all the present value in your life. Let go of any envy you have for others. So quick side note, the attachment card and the envy card were right next to each other. Let go of all of that. So it was the attachment saying to let go of the envy. Back to the book. When you constantly long for what others have, you disregard the joy you could be choosing to engage in yourself. Your blatant refusal to be grateful becomes a self-perpetuating energy of lack in your life. It's time to get your enthusiasm back. Choose to be grateful at least a dozen times a day. Your life will shift from utter frustration to joyous satisfaction. Your attitude, your focus, your perception, your emotions, at the heart of it all, it's all a choice. And even I need to do a better job of remembering that. But then we also got new supportive connections reversed. This card reversed reveals a time of decreased activity and reduced connections, perhaps because perhaps because your boundaries have been too tight. You had too many boundaries up. You need to break the walls down or open them up a little bit. Okay, so the book of time of decreased activity and reduced connections. This could be a result of time restrictions, or it could simply represent, just like I said, your choice to isolate yourself and stay inactive. This isolation may be a life pattern, or it may be exhaustion from having too much to do. We're too overwhelmed. Ask yourself whether you're just floating with the energetic tide of your life. Are you following the path of least resistance? We're going to talk about that. You may feel that you don't have the energy to do anything else, but it's time to muster up the will and the motivation. This is a soul directive. Your destiny calls for you to open up and connect. Get out there and meet the people who will vibrate with your own heartfelt energy. Soul tribe. Network with others in fun and interesting activities. Your life is longing to express itself in countless ways. It's time to get off the sidelines and join the team. So that line, that are you following the path of least resistance? You feel like you don't have the energy to do anything else. Number one, we've got to go back to the gratitude card and get your joy and your enthusiasm back. Me too. But the path of least resistance, if we're overcomplicating ourselves, overcomplicating life, yeah. Because we've made the overcomplicated things, all this overwhelm, all this stress, all this struggle, our identity. It's become our comfort zone, like I keep talking about. It's become something predictable for us, where even if it sucks, at least we know what to expect. We know how to handle it. But it's not helping us grow. And by staying in that comfort zone, we're taking the path of least resistance. So go back to the basics. What are the things that make you happy? What are the basic things you need to do, not just to survive, but to boost your mood, to keep you happy? And not to imply that you have to be happy all the time, but can we increase our base level of where happy is, where it doesn't feel so far away? It doesn't feel so unattainable. Can we keep moving that line of where happy is to help us get closer to our higher self? Closer to finally embodying who we actually came here to be. It's not that complicated. Stop overcomplicating it. By the way, simple and easy are two different things. It's not complicated. It's simple. That doesn't imply that it's going to be easy. There's still going to be struggle. There's still going to be times of overwhelm. There's going to be times when we overcomplicate things, but we can't stay in that state. And a lot of us, way too many of us, have gotten to that state and we've never left. It's time to let go. No more attachment. No more overly strict, unnecessary boundaries. No more staying completely in our comfort zone, or maybe at all in our comfort zone. You want to get your shit together, go back to the basics. I think that's all I have for you today. I hope that was helpful. I hope to see you at one or both of the upcoming events. I sincerely appreciate it anytime you share the show, like I mentioned before. So thank you to anyone who has done that. And you can continue to share the show as well. So again, make sure you tag me on Instagram if you do share on there at I am Carrie Jokala. And the link for that is also in the show notes along with everything else. If you feel so called to book your own Reiki session, your own Akashic Records session, if you have energy that needs to be balanced, if you have questions that you need confirmation around, these are what these sessions are for. If you have any questions about them, please let me know. you can always reach out. I look forward to the rest of the episodes to come, the interviews that are on their way. I thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time.